Now, Dimitris Αβραμόπουλος, your turn. I don't know if you want to go on into the Eastern Mediterranean and so on, and the Cyprus problem now, but you could intervene again.
They are all interconnected, because when we talk about Eastern Mediterranean, we cannot ignore that we are in Cyprus now, and Cyprus is back on the epicenter of all these geostrategic changes, which has raised the strategic importance of this island, and we'll talk about it later as far as the main objective, which is to see this island be reunited one day. It will be beneficial for everybody, because a united Cyprus means that we can overcome all these problems in Eastern Mediterranean, starting not only from the conflict in Gaza or in other parts of the Mediterranean, but also of the fact that Eastern Mediterranean has one big problem to resolve: the delimitation of the exclusive economic zones, which is a part of the complex of the situation here. So let's see how can we foresee the reunification line, which is beneficial for everybody. Everything passes from here. Energy routes, interconnection with other parts of the world, sea lines, but this has to be understood by Turkey. Turkey must realize that it's beneficial for this country to have this problem resolved. It will take time, but at least there is a hope on the horizon after the election of the new leader of the Turkish Cypriot community. Let's hope that it will be proven maybe the most hopeful development, given the fact that everything starts from the dialogue between the two communities. But let's go back to what we said before. Well, regarding the situation as it was described before by our panelists, the situation is very complex right now and became even worse after what happened in Gaza. I'm afraid that this very good initiative undertaken with the Abraham agreements could be back on the table as soon as possible. This can lead to a better understanding, but how can you overcome the deep wounds that have been created during the last dramatic years in this part of the world? It is difficult, because beyond politics and geopolitics and all these wishful thinkings, there is something that we cannot ignore: the traumatized, emotional, peoples in the region. So the Abraham agreements were on the right track. But in order to move forward now, I think this is the moment to decide to put also Palestinians on board. They cannot be separated from the whole process, because right now they are not there in this dialogue that is going to start. We have to understand that everybody in this region has a role to play. But as I said, the emotional part cannot be overcome easily, because whatever is divided by blood, it cannot be forgotten the day after. It will take at least 2 or 3 generations. And the emotional memories are very strong in everything, including geopolitics. Coming back to what I said in the beginning about Cyprus. We all believed in the past the Mediterranean was in the margins of the global interest. No, it's not anymore. It is not a marginal issue. Mediterranean has come at the epicenter of global development. So all countries in the region have to realize that it is the moment to make a step forward. In the past, there were some initiatives, but the Mediterranean area should be more interconnected among all of us, on the basis of common historical experiences, but most importantly, on the basis of our common aspirations. Here on this panel, you have representatives not only of Cyprus, of Greece, but also Egypt, one of the most important stakeholders in the region in terms of stability. Also, Israel, who plays a very important role. But I believe it's not far away the day that we must all decide to make something more concrete. The proposal to create a new form of cooperation, a new platform of cooperation in the region with a new conference with the participation of all stakeholders, even among countries that understanding it's not very easily achieved. And I believe that it was on the right direction, the proposal made by the Greek Prime Minister some days ago. But will it be possible to start talking to each other, to understand that we live in a common, vital space for all of us? So the Mediterranean is coming back, as I said, at the heart of the global developments, as I said in the beginning, on energy, on sea lines, on everything. But the precondition is, of course, to establish trust. Trust is missing among all stakeholders in the region because we still have on our shoulders the burden of our past. But this is the role of leaders today, how to open new horizons by getting rid of what was inherited to us by the past. Is it easy to happen? It is not easy. I'm a politician myself. And I know that in politics, what defines the role of leaders is what is considered as national interest. And this is the problem today in all these countries, because national interest is not always in accordance with the human interest, with the real needs of the people. And last thing I'd like to mention, where is Europe? Europe should be reasserted in this part of the world, but Europe is weak. Europe has not managed to have one voice to speak. Europe is fragmented. But Europe should understand one day that Mediterranean is part of its vital space. So they have to be more present here. But in order to do that, they have to overcome their domestic problems. I said that given my experience as European Commissioner till 2019, where I saw the beginning of the end of Europe as we were used to that in the past. Fragmentation, division, and of course, the rise of all these hardcore extremist powers and political parties that unfortunately, in the way they think, they give us the impression that they want Europe to go back, to revert back to its dark pages. So Europe is not here as it should be. The countries in the region should talk to each other in a spirit of trust, and leaders should share the same vision for a new world that we want to make. And since it was in the past the cradle of all big achievements on mankind's history, it was Mediterranean, let's make it again. It is not difficult. It depends on whether there is political will, there is strategic plan, and there is, let's say, among the politicians, something that it is difficult to be achieved, to get rid of the so-called political cost and start thinking in a different way. Finally, the 20 points plan of President Trump should be considered. There are some good points there, but it will take time in order to be implemented. Thank you.
And Dimitris, you want to comment? Because I have a question too, but you comment first.
A remark. What we discuss here today has to do with how the international community is organized. After the Second World War, we had managed to set up United Nations. It was a strong organization. And in the meantime, one of the biggest achievements was multilateralism. Sorry to say, multilateralism is vanishing today. Unfortunately, most of the governments are fortifying behind their borders. And I'm afraid that if there is no consensus on a global scale of what's happening in the world, because everything is globalized, whether we like it or not, whatever happens here has a direct impact on the other part of the world. But what is the role of international organizations today? I'm afraid it is not as powerful and influential as it was before. So I think a new start should take place all around the world. How to bring back on the table, around the table, all the stakeholders. It is not easy. We are far away from that today. And this part, this neighborhood, depends a lot on what the decisions are in New York or in Brussels or anywhere else. And that's why I referred before in my initial remarks about the European Union. The European Union, unfortunately, is very weak, cannot assert its will in this part of the world. A lot of rhetorics, a lot of nice words, but nothing in practical terms. I had experienced it when I had to cope with migration in the European Union. Just 5 months after my arrival in Brussels, we had the very first uncontrolled migratory flows and the very first terrorist attack. So I was the person to handle it. Europe had been taken by surprise. And what is the outcome of this period of approximately 10 years? Still, Europe cannot manage migration. Still, Europe cannot manage something that has to do with this part of the world. To complete the European project by adopting common foreign and defense policy. How can the European voice be heard when there are 27 different voices within the European Union? The same is with the United Nations. The United Nations, unfortunately, is going back to even before its creation. How can we revive international cooperation? Because what's happening here, it's not bilateral. It's not between Israel and the Arab world, Israel and Palestine. It has to do with the rest of the world. Everything is disrupted in the Mediterranean. Energy, sea lines, everything. So we are here today to talk about the future not only of the region, but of a big part of the world. And this is the role of leaders. Leaders have to make bold decisions, as I said before, to get rid of the so-called political cost. For instance, how can the Prime Minister in Israel or in another Arab country can go and say what he really thinks behind closed doors? When I said that, sorry, Mr. Ambassador, we have to put the Palestinians on board, they are out of this dialogue. They have a right, as Mr. Musa said before, but on the other hand, we have to accept that Israel has its own physical and historical right to exist. So this would lead one day to a better understanding between the peoples of the region, as it has happened before. In Europe, we managed to get rid of what happened during the Second World War, and the wise people after 1945, they gathered around the table and said, okay, let's give an end to two tragedies, to global wars, and set up something new, a space of stability, of peace, cooperation, of growth. And it was achieved. Doesn't matter whether the European project is not complete, but it was a good paradigm. And talking about Cyprus, and I close here, Cyprus is the miniature of Europe, if we really want to see it through another optical prism. And I say again, my dear friend Mr. Georgiadis, that if the Cyprus issue is not resolved, there will be a pending issue for the whole region. And if we continue on the path as it is shown by the Turkish side, 2 states, it will be a thorny issue, a division issue for the years to come. So if we really want to create an environment of stability and peace and cooperation, we have to start from Cyprus. And then, at the same time, to move on a better understanding between two peoples who deserve and have the right to exist in the Middle East. They are there, Palestinians and Israelis, for the last 3,000 years before Europe was invented. Before Europe was invented, and we all know history, we know what happened at that time. We cannot continue like this. So I come back to what I said, we need leaders with vision, take decisions, move forward, and how can they overcome what I said, the emotional problem.
You know, I explained before what is the state of play within the European Union regarding all these international developments. Yes, the question is very, very good. Who is going to pay? Because reconstruction will cost a lot of money, and it will take a lot of time. International community, as we said before, is unfortunately very weak and fragmented. Most of the member states of the European Union and of the United Nations have established bilateral relations with the region. So they serve the so-called national interest. Does this national interest is in accordance with the question, the substance of the question, the complex question? I don't think so. But I believe when the moment comes for both parts to decide to establish peace, it will not be difficult for the global community to be mobilized. But right now, I don't think there is any. Well,
we have to stop.
You know what happened after the Second World War? The Marshall Plan.
Yes.
The Marshall Plan was
the
the plan that reconstructed Europe. Who paid for the Marshall Plan?
The Americans.
The Americans. Why? Because yes, they were the main winners in this conflict war, but at the same time, Germany was devastated. So they pay the bill. I don't know whether Israel has to pay it or anybody else, but at least it is a shared responsibility of the whole world. Sure. If we all do it together, it can be done. As the ambassador said before, Israel does not have any will to pay the bill. But let's pay a good bill, all of us, in order to establish peace in the region. Otherwise, it will be an open bill for the future.